We're recording. Greetings, people of the earth. My name is Josh Miles. I'm here to talk about all things Bengals, and so is Aaron Schaus. He's on this side of my screen right now. But we're here to talk about what the Bengals did to the Pittsburgh Steelers in Week 3, and also what happened against the Chicago Bears. Justin Fields, Andy Dalton, all those things. And talking about what happened all the way back in Week 1 when everybody thought Jamar Chase was going to be an NFL draft bust. Anyway, first thing that we have to overview is Week 1 and Week 2 are highlights and lowlights. Something that's a very, very big deal. So I'm going to just kick it over to Schaus and allow him to do what he does best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. All right, so we're gonna start off with the highlights for Week 1 for me. Big thing was coming in from last year was a big statement for the Bengals. I feel like was their great offensive work last year with Joe Burrow. Granted, the offensive line was obviously in tatters and needed to be fixed. We saw a lot of games where Joe looked fantastic, like throwing for 300 yards, making plays like look really good, like being able to hit his targets. Tyler Boyd was a big target last year. T. Higgins was a big target last year. And that's what some I feel like they picked up on pretty strong in week one. Um, I feel like the veteran presence of Giovanni Bernard was missed a little bit, but I think a lot of people can say that he's a bit swept under the rug now. Seeing as Joe Mixon's really put in work and he's really starting to look hot. I still think that like RB2, RB3 dynamic is kind of in the air still. I think that will come as time goes though. But uh, if we're going specific highlights of week one, um, far and away the deep ball to Jamar Chase. Great pass. Two things on that play. One was Joe Burrow's questionable ability to throw deep balls, and it was pretty good, especially for his first one. You could argue it was underthrown or overthrown, whichever you would like to say, but Jamar caught the ball and he scored. So, I mean, you did what you have to do there. Um, Another highlight I would say would be just if you watch Joe Mixon's um, each time Joe Mixon takes the ball, there's a specific play that I saw where Joe, I think he got hit early and then came around the side and scored. He got like 20 yards on the carry. Um, it's evident that Joe Mixon's been putting in work. Um, it is very well known that he can take a hit. But for me, I think what's really held Joe back as a running back has been his indecisive nature to either run or try to wait for a hole. He does like those little stutters and it works, but I think we're really starting to see him take it to the next level with being able to kind of combine that with his big body and his strength to keep running. So I agree with that. All right, low lights. There were a couple of penalties on both sides of the ball that didn't happen until the second half. First half, their penalties, the way that they were able to like hold off was great. Not so much in week two, but we'll get there in a minute. Um, I would say that low lights were is man coverage. I mean, that's basically been the same thing for the Bengals in the past couple of years. You got a lot of guys who really really what our defense is made up of right now are guys that need to prove themselves, guys that need to step up, and so that'll come with time, I think. Um, but I mean, the D line looked fantastic that week one, and I was a big fan of B.J. Hill. Literally, kind of forgot we had him. Didn't realize he was starting until I was at the game, and he had 2 sacks. So I think we've already won the trade for Billy Price there. I think once he got traded, it was already a win. Sorry, Billy Price, but I mean, very underwhelming pick. I believe he was 17th overall pick. Is that right? First round, 17th overall. I got it. I can check real quick.
He was somewhere up there. He was in the teens. He might have even been.
21st.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Like and like you think about the amount of snaps and just like not even like meaningful. Well, like yes, meaningful snaps, but just not good play we got from him, and the amount of good play that we've already gotten from B.J. Hill. It's night and day. And who else did we get in that trade? We got somebody else.
We got a pick. That was it.
We got a pick. Well, so I mean, I completely agree with you on all of those fronts. I've been super impressed with with BJ Hill. I've been also just overall D line play. Um, it has been night and day since last year. I mean, our arguably our biggest weakness last season was getting pressure on the quarterback. I mean, quarterbacks had so much time to throw against us. It was outrageous. Like, yeah, our cornerbacks were questionable, and a lot of our linebacker play was questionable as well. Um, but when a quarterback has 15 seconds to throw the ball, they're going to be able to find somebody downfield. Like, you can't cover a guy for that long. So, especially when, like, we love to make fun of them, but especially when you're covering guys like Juju Smith-Schuster and like Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, even Hollywood Brown, like they're going to get open. Like, that's just how it is. Um, I think another huge W. He hasn't played week 1 or 2 or 3, and he won't play it all this season. But a huge W that we got to see in the preseason was Joseph Osai. Just, I mean, absolutely lights out. So excited to see him next year. I already feel like a difference in this team, and I think there's been some huge question marks as to, okay, well, is Zach Taylor going to be the coach next year? Is he going to be the coach halfway through the season? The win against the Steelers earlier today was something that helped his resume so much, not because we've seen this team's identity playing from behind. We've not really seen them play ahead much. And today the defense played so lights out. It was awesome to watch them just really, really lock down in that second half. Joe Burrow was barely on the field. He was on the field for like what, 2 or 3 drives in the second half, and our defense still, I think, only gave up 3 points. And I mean, last year we lose that game, guaranteed. Last year we lose that game. We lose the game against Minnesota too. And we probably also lose the game against Chicago, but we lost it this year. So, but anyway, I think just our defense in general. Lou Anarumo's done a great job scheming this year. He's another guy who's on the hot seat. Um, Shaus has mixed feelings about Lou Anarumo, but he's done well. Um, another, I think a low light for me has been Trey Waynes. It's been super unfortunate. I think he's just kind of a general low light for like the past 2 seasons, where I feel like I catch myself a lot saying, well, if we had Trey Waynes, because I'm watching Eli Apple cover our number one and number two wide receivers where it should be. Like, honestly, Shaz and I have talked about this, where it's like I think Darius Phillips should be starting over Trey Waynes because he generally gets more pressure on wide receivers when they're about to catch the football, where Eli Apple like can cover, but he gets burnt a lot on deep routes and especially in man press, and also he cannot tackle. So he loves to get penalties too. So I just think the whole Trey Waynes contract has kind of been an L, because he was like our big contract piece coming into that season. It was supposed to be a big deal, and then he tore his pec, and we were like, all right, well, next year. And now it's seeming like next week, next week, next week, and I'm waiting to see him. I'm waiting to see him, and I'm hoping that when he comes back, he will still be full strength. That being said, Chidobe Awuzie and Michael Hilton, um, freaking insane. They've been crazy. So just all over the defense, great things have been happening. What Shaus? What were some of your thoughts coming into the game this week?
All right, so obviously it's Steelers week, so every Steelers week is obviously a stressful thing for Bengals fans. Personally, for me, whenever I think of the Steelers, there's a lot of things that happen. You think of 2005, you think of 2015, you think of every battle that's gone in a direction that's not falling towards the Bengals. However, knowing from what I know of the team this year, there's a lot of potential, a lot of untapped potential on both sides of the ball. Offense has still not really hit its peak, um, which is not bad because they've had great success. Defense, I could say the same thing. Like you said, there's injuries on the defense, and we won't really get to see the extent of how good the defense will be yet. But really, I feel like every time with the Bengals, when they're good, they always have the potential to beat the Steelers. On that side, for me, I think it's more of a psychological thing. I don't think it's a, "Are we better than the Steelers?" Because you could say that till you're blue in the face. But for me, it's the psychological thing. Hey, historically, we don't beat these, so that pressure mounts up. Think of it as a player too. Like you're coming on to a culture that's trying to flip its culture, and you play a team that kills that culture for you. Like that's a tough win. Um, but you got to think of like guys coming to this game like Tyler Boyd's really amped up because he's from Pittsburgh. Not to mention, if you look up Tyler Boyd highlights against Pittsburgh, he goes off. And not only does he go off, but he gets hyped. I was watching highlights, and there was like a game a couple years ago. Ryan Finley was playing, and he threw this like wobbly duck of a ball, and Tyler Boyd somehow caught it for a touchdown.
It's like
And
Tyler Boyd's game of the year every year.
this guy like damn near rips his jersey off and just like dives into the crowd. It was like awesome. But sorry to go off there, but really, I just think it's psychological. Like I really always think like Pittsburgh will probably try to come out and win the game. Knowing TJ Watt was out, I was like, that's a dub because I know Joe's gonna have more opportunities to throw and not get hit. I knew Ben was having struggles. I thought Ben wasn't gonna start because of how badly injured he was. Um, but my dad's a Bills fan.
I was honestly more worried about Big Ben not starting. Like in all
Yeah,
reality, I was more worried about facing Mason Rudolph, which is like I still think we would have won, but like I think it probably would have been closer.
yeah. So continue. I agree with you, but continuing on to what I was saying, my dad's a Bills fan, and so he watched that Week 1 game against it was Bills Steelers, and he was like, they just didn't look good. Offense didn't look solid. And so we saw more of that. Granted, they're dealing with a lot of injuries, which sucks because with the Steelers in recent years, their wide receiver core has been pretty solid up and down. You had that issue with Antonio Brown a couple years ago and Juju, how they just kind of didn't mesh well. But right now, all healthy receivers, Juju, Claypool, and Johnson as like a three, like a trio, that's pretty solid. And what you're seeing right now is you're seeing Johnson, who personally I thought last week when he was in on that play at the end of the game, he should not have been in on that play. You get your guy hurt probably for the end of the like for the rest of the season on a play that probably doesn't matter. And so you lose a guy there that's huge in a game like this. And then Juju goes out with rib injury and Chase Claypool gets hurt in the game. So it's not looking good for Pittsburgh now. In the game, I think I got more and more confident. Obviously, they were playing well. I was just optimistic. I thought for sure it was gonna be like a 20-17 type of thing, like back and forth maybe. Um, but yeah, I feel like I always stay optimistic. Especially because it's the Bengals. If you root for a team when they're 0-9 or whatever, like getting a win feels great. And I think I was like thinking about that today too, because what did they start off like 0-10 that one year? But hey, I mean, look at what they've done now, and I mean, you can really start to see the improvement. So, yeah, definitely had great thoughts coming into this week, and wanted to shake off last week. So I was hyped. I was ready.
Yeah, me too. I think coming off of last week, it definitely left a bad taste in my mouth. Um, and kind of you were saying this earlier today, but I think in some ways this win kind of made last week hurt a little bit more, just because I know we should have beaten the Bears. Like we are not a worse football team than the Bears. Joe Burrow throws those three interceptions, two of which weren't his fault. Um, and you're looking on the outside in that game, and they they still fought made it made it 17-3, covered the spread because great teams cover the spread, and that's the identity of this football team in all reality. Like you look at guys like Joe Burrow, you look at guys like Jamar Chase, you look at guys like Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd, T Higgins, the whole entire team, Jesse Bates, Logan Wilson, everybody. You look at them and you think about how competitive they are. Their competitive nature is what keeps them in football games. And like watching today, we like I said earlier, we didn't see the Bengals offense much at all in the second half. Um, we saw Steelers, all Steelers offense, and the defense played great. And coming into today, that's what I wanted to see. Was like I want to see our offense get us into a spot where we can win and our defense keep it that way. Um, I wanted to see Joe Burrow execute really well when Joe threw that first pick today. I got really nervous. It kind of like got batted up in the air, but I was kind of freaked out. I was like, oh no, like great, like we're gonna start hearing like Joe's a bust and like all this stuff, but I'm gonna have to fend off all these annoying Steeler fans. But didn't have to. But coming into today, I was looking for I wanted the Bengals to stretch the field, and I feel like they did that, especially with a lot of the stuff that we'll kind of get into a little bit more later. But I was hoping to see a little bit more of open play calling from Zach Taylor. Um, Joe Burrow having to audible less at the line. I love it when he does it because it really shows his like how great what is between his ears. Um, it just shows how great and high his football IQ is when he does audible at the line, and then it works so well. Um, but yeah, I was just hoping to see some great play calling from Zach Taylor, and I don't know if it was great today, but it was better. It was a step in the right direction at the very least, which is something that we really needed to see, and we got a win in the process. So that being said, I think we can kind of hop into like breaking down this game, starting with the beautiful and gorgeous Logan Wilson interception, the first one of his McDouble. Shaus, you go ahead and you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I got you. Okay, so I believe you were still on your way over when that play happened. So in that play, what I saw was what you saw a lot of the game, a lot of pressure on Ben. I believe in this specific play, Hendrickson actually got to him and hit his arm, and you saw Ben holding his elbow, which is a big thing. Um, he's been holding his elbow a lot in these games, and you can tell he's in pain. Looking at it from a Bengals fan, like, obviously, they should probably bench him. Not saying because, like, "Hey, I wanna play the Steelers again and not play Ben," but he's obviously hurt, he's run down, you might need to give this guy a break. Moving forward with the interception, it was like okay, when I first saw it, I thought it was, like, a lot crazier than it was, but he, like, tipped it into himself. So, really, what I think with Logan Wilson, what he does so well in, like, pass coverage is he puts himself where the ball is. And what you don't really like, I feel like for specific linebackers, you don't really see that a lot. And once we drafted Logan Wilson, I was thinking to myself, I was like, I like it, but is he gonna really be this good? Because when I think of like drafts, I think of guys who like don't make immediate impacts. Why I think this, I have no idea. But his impact has just been immediate, especially from last year coming into this year. But just going in with that interception, like, he really just puts himself where the ball is and, like, really just goes to make the play, whether it's a tackle, whether it's batting the ball away, whatever it is. He's just there and he makes himself known. And it's just tip drill, makes the play,
Yeah,
it's our ball, takeover or turnover, takeover, takeaway, whatever. I combined it. But yeah, I mean, it was a great play. And I think that
it was.
this isn't a fluke. Like, Logan Wilson is gonna keep doing his thing.
Logan Wilson is like a guy who I get so excited about. I mean, last year he was, I think by PFF grade, one of the better coverage linebackers in the NFL. Um, and so seeing Logan Wilson execute so well in the defensive scheme in the second year, making improvements on what he was doing, which was already really good in his first season, just it's crazy. Um, because a lot of people wanted the Bengals to go out and draft another linebacker in the draft this year. I was a big proponent of like, hey, let's not do that. Let's go get some weapons, aka Jamar Chase, and let's stack up on O line and D line and cornerback and whatever else we could possibly stack up on because we addressed the linebacker core last year. We got Marcus Bailey, ADG, and Logan Wilson, and we got more weapons this year. We got Joseph Osai, and I think Cam Sample is he? I think he's an edge rusher. I'm pretty sure. Um, I'm about 85% sure. I can't remember, but I know he had a sack today.
The end.
He's a defensive end. So either way, we got Joseph Osai, who's technically still a linebacker. Um, but we've addressed the linebacker position, and I'm really happy we drafted Osai. But like the two highlights of our linebacker core. I mean, obviously Jermaine Pratt's been great, but like the young guys, ATG and Logan Wilson look super legit. I mean, Najee Harris scored like what 20, 28 points in fantasy football today, but he didn't score a touchdown. Like our defense was the definition of bend don't break today, and it was due in large part to our linebacker play. Another thing that happened as a result of the Logan Wilson's um, his first interception, which actually came out right after Joe's interception, was Tyler Boyd getting into the end zone, which was on a nice little play. It was, I think it was just like a 5 yard in route, and he just like ran it right in. He bounced off of some tacklers and just got right into the end zone. And I mean, you could tell that he was hungry for that end zone. He's playing in Pittsburgh, like you were talking about earlier. It's just like he has that chip on his shoulder, and he's gonna want to score in front of the Pittsburgh crowd to be like, "Hey, look at me! Like, you remember this? You remember when I played here in college, dude?" So I think that's like what Tyler Boyd's just all about. And it was, I think that touchdown was really big, because first of all, I don't think Joe had to do much on that play. It was like it wasn't a really difficult throw to make, but it got a touchdown, which I think gave Joe some confidence, um, leading into kind of the latter half of that half. Which after that play, the Steelers would answer. But we'll get all that we'll get to all that later. What do you think about the Tyler Boyd touchdown? That was so beautiful.
Ah, man, I mean, like, just seeing that, especially for Tyler's first touchdown, feel like he's kind of been pushed away a little bit with the production of T. Higgins and of course the spotlight of Jamar. But
Oh yeah,
I
oh
feel
yeah.
like he's always playing his game. You know, it's like I feel like Tyler's one of those guys that he lets the game come to him, and when the game comes to him, he makes his mark. And I think that is just a perfect way to describe him. Like I was watching the post game, and Joe was saying that that's just the type of guy that Tyler is. He always fights for the ball, fights for the next yard, fights for the end zone. Like he's that guy. He wants to make that play. And he said, if he catches the ball and sees a guy inside, he wants to run him over or something like that. And I was like, that's just weird because he's so small, kind of like he's built, but like he's small, you know. Um, and yeah, it's just great play for Tyler. I'm sure it boosts his confidence. And I know he's big in the locker room, and so I'm sure they were feeling that when he scored too. So good stuff for Tyler.
Absolutely, and kind of as I was talking about, after Tyler scores a touchdown, Pittsburgh goes on like a gigantic drive, and they answer. They get 7 points back. Um, uh, but something that was huge was right after that. There was about a minute left. The Bengals got the ball back because they scored like what? I think they went on like an 8 minute drive. The Steelers did. Um, they went on like an 8 minute drive, and after that, the Bengals get the ball back with like a minute left in the half. They get the ball at halftime, and you see that drive, the drive where you have a minute left to go down and score some points. That is the difference between a two-score game and a one-score game coming at a halftime. You score there, and then you score coming at the half. It could possibly be 21-7. It could be 17-7. It could be 14-7 because you might not score. But like that drive is huge, and it's fun because Joe Burrow understands that. Um, Like Joe Burrow played that drive very, very well, very smart. Just to like, not even that like taking chances on some throws, and just I loved what I saw from him on that drive, and that 34-yard touchdown pass to Jamar Chase was the I got up from my seat and started screaming because it was just like I literally was sitting there like I cannot like that doesn't happen last year. That doesn't happen. I love T. Higgins. I'm a huge T. Higgins truther. And T. Higgins is an amazing football player. But T. Higgins doesn't make that play. I'm sorry. I I don't think he does. I mean, we've seen T. Higgins as like a deep threat. I think he can get to the end zone, but I think that's why they drafted Jamar Chase. And I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, T. Higgins is bad or like whatever. But I think he's more of like a 50-50 ball guy where it's like you kind of throw one up to T. That's just my opinion. Maybe it's a freezing cold take. But I think Jamar Chase is absolutely unreal. I'm super happy that he's been shutting people up by the way he played and not talking back to them. Um, and I think that touchdown at the end of the half was huge, and it like very obviously took the life out of everything that Pittsburgh had to offer. I mean, they go down and they score. A minute left, they're thinking, "Cool, we have the game tied. Maybe we're gonna be down by a field goal." And we go down and score on like a dagger of a play, and it was nice. It was very very nice. And Joe Burrow couldn't have thrown that ball better. So beautiful. Can't stop thinking about it. Could talk about it for literally an hour, but I'm gonna let Charles talk about it.
Thank you, thank you. So that play, I feel like it's kind of accustomed now. You're really starting to see this longer pass down to from Joe to Jamar, and it kind of makes me wonder how much longer it's going to be allowed until teams are starting to pick it up in their uh, coverages. We probably won't see that on Thursday because we got Jacksonville. Um, I would really like to think that Jamar's gonna shine in that game, but really what it is um, Joe and Jamar have really kind of clicked again, and I think Joe is starting to be like, look, like we need to take shots, we need to move the ball, and Joe and Jamar both were adamant about that last week. Joe or Jamar, I think, tweeted it, and then Joe like was talking about it in the post game, and then I guess they linked with Zach Taylor and were like, look, we're ready for this, um, and I saw watching the post game today that Zach Taylor said it was the same play they ran in the Vikings game before halftime. He said it was a little different. Obviously, Jamar's on the far side of the field, on the left side, but I mean, same design. Obviously, I think it was a little different because Jamar was actually playing behind the defender, and got a in front of him and like snow coned it almost like it was in his fingertips. And that's one of those plays that, like you said, it can take the life out of a defense. It can it can do a lot for you because the Bengals got the ball at halftime, and so you go in the locker room up a score after scoring right before. You're like, all right, come right back out, do the same thing. That didn't happen, but I mean, those are the types of things that scoring before halftime does a lot for you, and we've been able to do that twice out of the 3 games that we've played. So pretty happy about that.
Another just huge thing that happened today was it was like a very small thing where it kind of felt like you blink and you miss it, but the Bengals got the ball back again after they scored because there was like still I think like 40 seconds left, and they got the ball back again because the Pittsburgh Steelers tried to score after that, and then the Bengals took the timeout and got the ball back with like 30 seconds left. Tried to take another shot. It worked. They got the ball down to like the 50, but there was a holding call, which like the clock had run pretty far down after that, so they then had to just take a knee and run the clock out. But they were gonna try and score again. Like they didn't like and that's what I'm looking for is like when you're playing Madden against somebody, like we don't generally want to look at Madden and be like, oh, that's how I want to play real football. But like when you're playing Madden against somebody and you have 30 seconds left in the first half, you're not worried about, oh, what if I throw a pick? Because you're thinking, what if I throw a touchdown? Because wouldn't that be sick to go into half up 21-7, and a minute ago it was 14-7, and I loved that. I loved the fact that Zach Taylor was willing to take a shot today. He's been a super aggressive play caller. Sometimes in situations where we don't need him to be, like that first week where we go for it on fourth down, and I think it was like fourth and three or something like that. Um, and we ran the ball, and it was on our own 30. It was 21-7. We had all the momentum. You should just punt it deep and let our defense carry it. But then our defense inherits 7 points, basically, at the very least three. Um, but that aggressive play call, I loved it. I was like, crap, like let's try it. You know, what's the worst thing that could happen? Joe throws an arm punt and then we go into half and we're still up by a touchdown. I didn't hate it. I loved it. And I think that's the aggression that a lot of Bengals fans were looking for. I think that's the spreading the field that Joe and Jamar were looking for. I think that is huge, and that speaks volumes to the coach that Zach Taylor wants to be. Is he I felt like today we played less about, oh, we don't want to lose. I think today we played, we want to win, which was huge because there is a difference. There is a huge difference. What did you think about our last little drive?
Are you talking about like the 40-second drive? Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So I mean, it was great because first off, that was a past Auden Tate, someone we've really seen not being a non-factor this year, so far. Why that is, I couldn't really tell you. Personally, I'd rather have Auden Tate than Mike Thomas, but I mean, gonna let the players
It's
speak
a
for
conversation
themselves,
y'all
and
ain't ready
if
for.
you're on the field making a bigger impact, then sure, like you're gonna get more time. Um, but yeah, it's just like as my dad would always say, it, my dad's like his takes are really funny, but he hates conservative offense, as anybody does. And we've watched, me and my dad are Kentucky fans, and so we've watched their football over the years, and they get to this point where they'll coast in certain games, and they won't go for the kill, as they say. And my dad, quoting my dad here, he goes, "The Patriots do that stuff for years. They lay on the gas and they don't let up. They drive you into the wall and they don't stop." And here's why that's important. And I have another side story for you about this too, which is really cool. So, as a team, what I like about staying on the gas and not letting up. In games when you need to step the gas up, you'll be prepared. However, if you lay off, you're not going to be prepared when you're tested. So here's where I'm getting to this. There's a coach that is a high school football coach in Texas, and he coached in an area where the teams were pretty small. So he was at his school was a powerhouse. And his issue was he was getting to state, getting like the second, third, fourth round of state, and his teams were getting gassed. And so they were losing. So his thing was like, all right, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna leave my starters in for 60 minutes a game. We're gonna run the score up and we're gonna win state. And he's won state 3 or 4 times now. He's vastly hated for this because it's high school, and a lot of kids, they don't want to get beat. I mean, he was running up the score like 77-3 and 68-5, like stuff like that. Five, that's funny, but I don't know why I said that, but no, legit, like by you not letting up prepares you for the long run, and so being able to see that they're getting the ball down the field with little time and like doing it well is a great sight to see because they're gonna need that in certain games when they need it, and they look good. They look prepared, which is funny because why is the 2 minute offense almost look better than like the normal offense? I don't know. I don't want to cap like that, but it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny.
It
They move the
does
ball
though.
well,
It
so.
does. I don't understand why our 2 minute offense looks so great. Uh, but anyway, we come out of the half, drive down the field a little bit, get a nice little drive going. CJ kind of bobbles a pass, drops it, it's whatever. But then um, we have Mr. Legatron come on and boot a nice field goal through. I mean, not even that I want to talk about the field goal that he made today or that he hasn't missed a field goal all season, knock on wood. But my God, I mean, just night and day. We all day today when we were watching the game, we were talking about Fat Randy and how like when he took the opportunity to win a game-winning field goal last season when we were playing. Who was it? Chargers? Was that the game? Yeah, the Chargers. Game-winning field goal against the Chargers opportunity, misses it, and he had like this one time where last year he kicked a field goal and said his left leg hurt, but when he kicked the field goal, he was grabbing at his right leg or something like that, and like the fact that we have just this kid who is literally like maybe 3 years older than us, and he is just ice cold, stone cold in game winning situations where it's like we have 3 seconds left in overtime against the Minnesota Vikings, and it's the difference between us going 1-0 and 0-1. And he's like, he doesn't care. He just boots it straight through, and it's so nice. Kicker is one of the most important positions in the NFL. It's the difference between winning football games and it's the difference between losing football games. We saw that last season, and I've said that for a long time. But Evan McPherson is the real deal. Seriously, one of my favorite Bengals that we drafted this season. I'm gonna get a jersey. I'm gonna get an Evan McPherson jersey. Like I said that in Shell's cap to me, but like I'm gonna get an Evan McPherson jersey because I need one. So, what do you think about Evan McPherson? Or you can talk about the field goal that he made today, but just in general, what do you think about him?
All right, so I'm gonna analyze this from the standpoint that I was talking to Phil about. So if you watch how he kicks the ball, I don't know if you've noticed this, but there's like been a couple times when he'll like kick it and he's like kicking it over the net, like he's clearing the net. So they said that the guys were like watching him in training camp, and he's like he's hitting the ball, and they said what's different about him is he doesn't go at it a certain way. He doesn't like try to like angle it. They said he kicks the ball straight and he kicks the ball high. And I don't know about you, but that's how you make field goals in the NFL. However, I don't okay, so I feel like my issue with that would be I don't know if they mean like he actually kicks the ball straight like in a straight line or when he hits it it just kind of stays like it doesn't like go to the left or to the right kind of thing. But what is interesting to me is what if he has to kick from the left or right hash? Like far left, far right. Are we going to see an issue there? I mean, who knows, but another thing that Evan said, he said in his post game that he's never kicked and made a clutch field goal in his life. Well, I don't know about in his life, but at Florida he didn't. He missed one in Florida last year. I don't know if you know this game. People in the audience might know, or whoever's listening. Uh, this is known as the shoe throwing game. Florida made a stop on LSU, and the defender picked the shoe up of the guy he tackled and threw it across the field. And if you didn't know, this is unsportsmanlike conduct.
Marco Wilson.
Whether people thought that was soft or not, you can't do that. And it caused LSU to get down the field. I think they tied the game with that. And then McPherson goes down with Florida and misses a field goal to win. And then Cade York for LSU comes down and wins the game. So that's Evan's like only experience, and he comes in week one and hits. And since then he's been just going. What's his confidence? Like I don't really know what to think, but like I know it's good, and I know that now that I'm like I remember seeing that notification and going, they drafted a kicker and being very confused and kind of upset. Honestly, I just need to stop being upset about draft picks because they've all like just kind of been like, "Hey, look, I'm good." Like, sheesh. I mean, I let's just keep it up. I mean, let's keep going. Go Evan.
Absolutely, absolutely love what he's done. But after that, obviously, after you score, you kick the field, you kick off again. Steelers get the football back, and Logan Wilson does what Logan Wilson does. The Pittsburgh Steelers were driving down the field, and poor Big Ben throws another interception to the freaking absolute goat linebacker, Logan Wilson. We've already talked about him, but just the fact that he had a McDouble today in today's game. Seriously, he was amazing last season, and he's improved this season. He is going to be kind of like what Schaus was saying. He's going to be a very scary linebacker for years to come. He's going to be a Bengal for years to come, hopefully. I just absolutely loved what I saw from him today. And if you want to talk about what his interception set up, which was Jamar Chase's McDouble, um, then you can go ahead and talk about that. Maybe even talk about Joe Burrow talking after he threw that touchdown pass. So
All right, so this is like my favorite thing, obviously. So, all right, what I wanna analyze, I wanna put this picture in your head. People, especially people who are watching. Watch Joe Burrow's first pick of last week, and watch Ben's second pick to Logan Wilson this week, and they're shot for shot almost the exact same like pick, right? Um, Logan's going from right to left, watching Ben's eyes, analyzing. If you watch the play, Ben, I almost couldn't tell if he was trying to just throw it towards the receiver so it wasn't grounding because the receiver was never open. He's on the ground because he fell down, and there are three Bengals standing there. And then Logan Wilson's just like standing, jumping in the way. And he picks it and he runs it into Steelers territory, and you just start to see like, what is this guy like? we got 3 picks this year, and it's all by the same guy. It's a linebacker. Like, I don't know. It's just like one of those things where, like, you don't expect it, but you know you like it because it's big. There are no DB picks yet. Nobody from on the DB side is picked yet. So that's interesting to me that all 3 are by Logan, which it's awesome. So I mean, I can't complain about that. And then it set up the Jamar Chase touchdown, which I watched in the post game. Again, I've been watching post game just to get just a feel of like what they say after the game. And that was Joe's 5th read on the play, his 5th read. And if you don't know, apparently on your 5th read, almost every time they're open. And so apparently when he was like jawing about the touchdown, he was telling the O line, "Hey, that's your touchdown. You scored us that touchdown because you kept me like in the pocket there." But if you watch the video, Joe's going like that. I'm gonna mute my mic, but he's going like this, and after he throws it, he's like you can tell he's throwing some words around. And like I don't know about Joe, but
He's
when
out
you
there
talk to him,
talking.
he's like soft spoken, whatever. But I can tell when he's on the field, he's hype as hell when he scores or does something cool. Um, Obviously for Jamar, he grittied after, so you love to see that. And just like it's just like, dude, every time Jamar scores or catches the ball, it's like he can't catch, right? I thought he couldn't catch. I thought he couldn't catch. Even though if you look at that, apparently the question to him was why can't you catch an NFL football? Which wasn't the question at all. They asked him what the difference between an NCAA football and an NFL football was, and then tagged it as, "Why can't you catch an NFL football?"
And he's talking about the Jamar Chase interview.
So it was capped completely. And now we can see that he's going to be a serious candidate for Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year. So that's all I'm saying. Uh, to wrap that whole little sequence up, that goes from a turnover and a crucial point of the game for the Steelers because they need to answer, turning into almost a dagger and a killer for the Steelers because of them needing to score, turning it over, and being scored on. So I'm gonna turn it back over to you for the next little.
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers score there. It's 14-17, and then it's anybody's ball game. It's anybody's ball game after that. So the fact that that was a thing, absolutely gigantic. Logan Wilson getting that interception, huge, just huge. I was listening. I was on the way over to my friend's house as I was listening to it on the radio. And I was actually watching Zim Hude as well. So shout out to Zim, but like I was watching it and he was getting so hyped. So I mean, it was absolutely sick to watch that happen. And after all that, the Bengals are up to 24-7, and the defense allows 3 points. When was the last time we saw a Bengals defense give up only 3 points in the second half? When? When? I mean, our defense played so lights out today. On top of that, you also talked about how like Joe Burrow was saying like that was the offensive line's touchdown. 0 sacks today. 0 sacks for this offensive line that people have been saying like, oh, why didn't you guys draft Penei Sewell? Like, why didn't you guys do this? Why didn't you do that? Why didn't you draft Dylan Radins? What do you mean? Like, I don't see Penei Sewell out there catching 34, 50-yard touchdowns. All right? I'm sorry, I don't. But I see Jamar Chase doing that. We drafted a guy who scores touchdowns, all right? And we drafted Jackson Carman. And Jackson Carman played today. And you know how many sacks the Bengals offensive line allowed today? 0. 0. That's none. I said this earlier today, but the Bengals are 2-0 in games with which they didn't allow sacks. They won last year against the Tennessee Titans, which was a huge upset. Everybody thought we were going to get slobbered by the Titans. And we won. We won this year against the Steelers. By the way, it was a game that every single expert, I think over at ESPN, had the Steelers winning because nobody believes in the Bengals. Nobody believes in the Bengals except Bengals fans and everybody who's in Cincinnati because it's Cincinnati versus the world. But huge shout out to the defense. The defense played so nuts. I don't even know what the time of possession for the Steelers was today, especially in the second half. But the defense was on the field. Like that whole fourth quarter. I think like the Bengals offense might have had like 3 first downs or something like that. anyway, the defense played absolutely nuts, out of their minds. Um, did exactly what they had to do, and like I think they got like a fourth down stop, and Jesse Bates was just jawing over there. And 3 minutes left in the game, the Bengals defense is waving at the Steelers crowd. And like as a Bengals fan, that is the best feeling ever because for the longest time, even like when Andy Dalton was like our quarterback and we had like really good football teams and we were like in contention for winning the AFC North, we were still like people never took us seriously. But like seeing like Jesse Bates out there who is by the way, the best safety in the NFL. Um
Pay him.
Pay him. Seeing Von Bell do what Von Bell does, just out there, just being them and like playing their game. It's like, oh my gosh, like Cincinnati has identity, they have moxie, they have everything that they've never had before, um, and it's so great to see. And that second half by the defense was just absolutely freaking insane. I don't know what you think about it, Schaus, but I'll let you speak on it. I got you.
All right, sweet. I was actually waiting for this. So I was kind of excited. So defensively, obviously there's a lot of W's, a lot of great plays. Open field tackling has continued to be kind of an area of concern that we need to fix. That'll come with time, obviously. Eli Apple's not a good open field tackler. Sorry, this is not the Eli Apple cap show, but he needs to work on a lot. That's okay. We've seen a lot worse. Believe me, I watched Drake Kirkpatrick for years, so I don't know who's worse, but I know there's room for improvement. Continuing, what I
Eli.
liked big time from Awuzie, just continuing this like, just I don't know what it is. It's just like he's
Chidobe
one of
the
the
goat.
guys,
I love Chidobe.
dude. It's insane. He comes to Cincinnati, and I remember when we signed him, there was like mixed reception because someone was like he played for Dallas last year and they like had like a bottom five like defensive, what is it, secondary? They like a bottom five
Every
secondary.
Dallas fan after we signed him was like, "Have fun watching him get burnt every play." I was like, "What? Like,
And he's just hit like a different
what?"
level this year. I don't know what it is. He's got like this chip on his shoulder to perform, and I think that's what's been different with this team is they want to play good and they want to get better. And he's the key to that. Chidobe Awuzie is not going to be forever on this team, but it's like something I've explained to someone before. It's like he's that guy that's the middle guy for you. That when new guys come in, rookies, new signings, whatever you have, he's the guy that you want to be a role model for the team. A guy who sets the tone. A guy who is like, look, this is how we play. This is how we finish games. This is the culture we want to instill in this team. Um, so that's what I like about Awuzie. He's left everything out on the field so far this season. Mike Hilton played on the Steelers last year and was telling Steelers bye. That's insane. That is absolutely insane. What I do think about the defense though
He was
today
also
was,
Mike Hilton was on the field for when they nailed out the clock. They let him go out there with the offense.
oh, that's
Zach
great.
Taylor let
That's
him go
great.
out there. It was sick.
That's great. What I do think about the defense though is I don't want to take away from them. However, this Steelers offense looked very, very bad towards the end. If you want to look at the play where game on the line, fourth down, he throws like a swing pass to Najee in the cut, and it's like you got first off, you got three Bengals there. Najee makes that play. He's not running through all three of them. And Ben, I saw the play after he just goes, and I'm like, Ben, where's he going there? Like even like not even trying to be
Seeing ghost
like that,
man.
like a Steelers hater. It's like I don't know what you wanted to happen there. I don't know if like maybe he ran the wrong route or something, but I don't know. But I think that the defense benefited from bad offensive play calling and bad offensive execution. However, that is still good because the defense gains confidence and the defense still learns from their mistakes and gets better. So I'll take it. Wuzier's calling the defensive secondary the cleanup crew. It's kinda corny, but I like it. I like how they're getting to that point where they're getting less confidence and building up
Clean up
like a
crow.
strength. It's awesome. So you gotta really look forward to that, and I think coming into the game, what were we? Were we top 10 in defense? Yeah, so that's a good start. D
I
lines
think we
looked
were number
fantastic.
6, like in total
Wow.
defense. I'm pretty sure
That's literally
we're up
insane.
there. We're in the
Obviously, it's
top
gonna
10.
change week to week. It's gonna change week to week, obviously. But D line looks solid. Like I said, I'm gonna bring this point up again because we somewhat overhauled the defense, right? And would you say we overhauled the defense? We let go a lot of guys that actually wanted to keep. Sorry, Gino. Love Gino. Getting old. It sucks. It sucks to see stuff like that, obviously. Um, the biggest defensive, I guess you could say, loss. William Jackson III. Let me elaborate on this. We let William Jackson III go, and he signed with Washington for 3 years, 43 million or something like that. We signed Awuzie and Mike Hilton for I believe 3 years apiece for basically
And
half
Ricardo
of
Allen
William
too.
Jackson's contract. Two guys for one, and they both start and they both have made an impact.
We also got Ricardo Allen.
That is true. We did get a Ricardo Allen. He's got a broken foot right now, though. He'll be back in like 2 weeks. He'll be fine. But what I love about that is everyone was saying, "Oh, he was our best corner at the time." It's like best corner on a defense that's bottom 5. That is the price you have to pay in order to overhaul the defense. If we would have paid him for that, you're obviously trading in 2 guys for 1 still, and not to mention, he's still not the best corner. Like, you can still go out there and get a better corner for that price. And so, as much as I liked William Jackson III, he was not all there solidly, and so I think that's still a win. You bring in Hendrickson, you bring in Ogunjobi, you bring in DJ Reader's healthy now. Mike Daniels was on the practice squad, but I think he's back on the team now, so he could get filtered in and out. BJ Hill, Cam Sample, like Tyler Shelvin when he's healthy. The defense is really making strides, and Lou Anarumo is finally gonna look like a good defensive coordinator because he actually doesn't have guys like I'm gonna commit the biggest sin on my life right now. Not legit, but Preston Brown is not the answer. I'm sorry. He went to the same high school I went to, but Preston was he. I don't think it was his fault. He was put in situations that weren't meant for him, and he was getting done really dirty. And that's moving forward from that historically bad defense. Like it is a shell of what they were, and it is great looking at this defense right now. They still need to be tested. Last week wasn't really a test. I don't really count that. Um, but we'll see if they really are ready for a big test. And that won't be this week. That won't be next week. It'll probably my guess. The first time will probably be, I would say, probably like the Ravens or somebody.
I,
Let me check the schedule real
think it'll
quick.
be Green Bay.
Green Bay, yeah, you're right. So we'll play Green Bay at Paul Brown, and then we go on a road trip: Detroit, Baltimore, New York. So the schedule's looking not too bad. Um, Historically, Green Bay doesn't play good at Paul Brown. I don't know if you know that they don't play good in Paul Brown. And by play good, I mean they don't win in Paul Brown. They play well, but the Bengals usually still win. Hopefully, it's the same case. We'll see. But yeah, I'm gonna pass it back to you for the last little snippet here.
All right, so we got Shouse and I both have an offensive and defensive player of the week. And I think we're kind of incorporating what they've done throughout the first couple of weeks as well, which is a big deal. So since we both have kind of like two players in one, um, one of us has one on the other side of the ball. But my offensive player for this week was Jackson Carman. I mean, getting tossed into a starting job and not allowing a sack, I realize that you don't have to face TJ Watt, and that's a luxury. But the fact that Jackson Carman didn't even allow a quarterback pressure, lights out. This people were talking about how this kid was going to be a bust. I trust Willie Anderson. Like Willie Anderson was like, no, Jackson Carman is going to be fine. Jackson Carman is going to do fine, and we got to see him play today, and I loved what I saw from him. I thought he looked great. Thought Shells was talking about a play where he kind of like missed a pass blocking assignment in terms of I think they were blitzing a safety, and he accidentally picked up a safety instead of a defensive lineman, which those are kind of areas where you're probably going to miss Giovanni Bernard a little bit, one of the best pass blocking backs in the league. But he was lights out today, especially for a rookie. And a lot of guys that a lot of a guy that a lot of people don't talk about is Hakeem Adeniji, who came in the one game where we also didn't allow a sack against the Titans, and he was locking down the edge. He was locking down the edge opposite to Jonah Williams, and I seriously think that a year under Frank Pollock could do him well too. We have a very we could get better at the offensive line position, and I'm not saying we could get better by getting more people. I'm saying that we could get better by letting our offensive line develop, which is a huge luxury. My second offensive player of the week, and this is weeks, is Jamar Chase. I mean, dude comes out and like, yeah, he looked terrible in the preseason. Like, I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. He looked really bad. Dude was dropping passes that he should have had, and I never lost faith in Jamar, but I was a little nervous coming into that first game and see him coming down um, with that first catch when he just caught it. I was so excited. Never been so excited about a catch in my life. It was like just like he caught it, like he jumped up and caught the football, and like that stadium went wild. Like Jamar Chase caught a football. Jamar Chase caught a football, and then he goes out, catches a 50-yard bomb. Every single week he has had, I think, the Bengals' longest play from scrimmage every single week. I want to say, but my God, Jamar Chase has been playing out of his mind, and it's amazing because, like, nobody after his preseason performances, nobody thought it was going to happen, and he's probably the front runner for offensive rookie of the year, especially with Rondell Moore having a down week. And the quarterback play has been subpar for most of the offensive rookies. Haven't seen Trey Lance yet, and I think if Trey Lance sits for another couple weeks and Jamar keeps playing the way he is, he's looking good for it. Um, and on the defensive side of the ball, who else? Logan Wilson. Mr. Frickin' Pick Off. This dude has all of the picks for the team. I mean, he's a linebacker. He's going insane. I wish, I mean, I could honestly, like, so many guys on the defense that I could talk about Chidobe Awuzie. We have not talked about Chidobe at all, and it's because he's been playing so well in pass coverage. You can tell if a cornerback's good by how much you hear their name. If you don't hear them at all, they're doing great. So, um, but Logan Wilson has played freaking lights out. He's been a linebacker that they've trusted in coverage um, since last season, and he has not disappointed at all. He was he was a second or third round pick. Third, I think he was a third round. He was a third round pick, and ADG was fourth. Um,
You said Wilson?
yeah, yeah, third round pick, and I mean, absolutely lights out. Bengals are not missing their third round picks back to back years are going to be some of the best players on their team. Joseph Osai is going to be a Bengal for a long time, and so is Logan Wilson. And Logan Wilson has been playing absolutely freaking insane defense. 14 tackles, 2 interceptions today. What are you on, Logan Wilson? Because I want some of it. I'm going to kick it to Schaus now, and he is going to tell you his players of the week.
I'm gonna backtrack real quick. Sorry about it, but I kind of seconded. I want to second your Jackson Carman highlight there. So if you guys don't know, Jackson Carman is actually from Cincinnati. Went to Fairfield High School. Was the what was he? He was like top 10 in his class as a prospect going to Clemson. Got a lot of flack for going to Clemson instead of Ohio State. Chose his own route. Had some issues in Clemson about work ethic and stuff like that. But as you see, that pick was based off of prospect potential and who Jackson Carman is. Zach Taylor knew that when he drafted Jackson Carman, that he was gonna be like, shoot, Cincinnati wants me to play, I'm turning it up. And he's ramped it all the way up to the next level. I don't know if you saw, like, there's like a Frank Pollock before and after guys got to training camp, but he slimmed them down and built muscle for these guys and have really put them to work. So that's great to see. So I'm actually going to go to my players of the week now. So for offense, it's the Joe and Joe show. Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon. Joe is really put Joe Mixon, sorry. Joe Mixon, we've really seen a lot of improvement. I mentioned that a little bit earlier. We know Joe Mixon can rush for 1,000 yards. We already know that. We already know that he tries to be shifty and he can run hard and he can make guys miss. He can get guys to not tackle him. Really, it's just Joe needs to put it all together now. And we're starting to see that. 90 yards this week. It was I don't think he rushed for 100 last week, but he did rush for 100 week 1. I do know that. And so he's starting to get a lot more consistency, and I think it's great to see for Mixon there, and it's going to be important. Some big components of that game today were it was like we were running clock down, and I think he had like 2 or 3. Yeah, I know he had 2 at least 10-yard rushes in one drive and like a 5 or a 6er. So he was running for like 30, 40 yards in a drive, which was sick. And it's great for him to see him continue just to eat. And then for Joe Burrow, bouncing back after that loss in Chicago, which love Joe Burrow, but he made 2 very bad reads, which resulted in picks last week, and which ultimately resulted in a loss in Chicago. Bounced back this week, threw that pick early, and kind of was like, "Uh-oh, is this gonna be Chicago all over again?" But he didn't. He bounced back and looked good. Um, Joe Burrow only threw 18 passes this week, completed 14 of them. So I don't know what that tells you, but that does tell you that there's been efficiency on the offensive level, especially this week in Pittsburgh, which is insane. Granted, TJ Watt didn't start, but we're not talking about that. We'll talk about that later. Um, and so I like Joe's ability to bounce back. If you listen and talk to Joe, uh, personally, I've never talked to Joe. I would like to, but he's very wise. He tries to learn more. He tries to look at more. He's a grinder. Really, what Joe is Joe's talented on a level that's like if you watch Joe Burrow play, it's because he's outsmarting you and he's picking the smarter play and he's using his knowledge to beat you, along with some talent, obviously. But Joe Burrow's not going to do what Patrick Mahomes does. He's not going to run 50 feet to the left and throw the ball across his body while spinning in the air. Like Joe Burrow's not going to do that, and that's fine. You don't really need that in the quarterback. However, he gets the job done. And that's what I like about Joe Burrow this week is the bounce back and the ability to move forward. And we're going to see that next week. And this Thursday, he's going to have a big game. Calling it. On the defensive side, we have B.J. Hill and Cam Sample. Both of those picks are going to be very interesting for this reason. Cam Sample is a rookie. He got his first sack today. The reason why I say that is because, personally, from a fan standpoint, the Bengals drafted D-line heavy in this draft. Cam Sample was a direct acquisition of that. Cam Sample is from Tulane. He was a fourth rounder. We got him because of the Patriots trade. Um, and really, we haven't seen a whole lot from him. I believe he was a healthy scratch for the first 2 weeks. Maybe he was actually hurt. I'm not sure. But he really got in with the D line this week. I'm really pointing more towards D line and the fact that Cam Sample got in the mix. Like you look at Ogunjobi, you look at Sam Hubbard, you look at Hendrickson, and Cam Sample got in there and got a sack, and you saw he was hyped. Like that's sweet. B.J. Hill, dude, like this guy week 1 came out of nowhere. Honestly, I forgot about B.J.
Like, where
Hill
did
when
he
we
come
got him.
from?
I didn't think he was gonna start. I was like, "Holy cow!" And so then this week he's picking right back up. He got a sack, and even if he wasn't, sacking Ben, he was putting pressure and he was making that offensive line very uncomfortable. And so that's what I think of there. Really, for me, the whole D line was the players of the week this week. However, if I wanted to direct it to 2 guys, those are 2 guys that I think did great this week, and we've not seen the last of yet. Like especially with Cam Sample. Uh, Probably not going to get a whole lot of a big role this year, but he's going to play a big role in this D line to come. Um, and something you mentioned earlier, I actually want to add on, is the loss of Joseph Asai is really a lot bigger than you thought. I mean, granted, we didn't think we would get a guy like this, but Osai really showed a lot of promise in the preseason. And when he was picked, I believe he was slated to go early second round and fell for whatever reason. But yeah, it's gonna look
I
good
think
here soon.
ironically, I think it was injury problems. I think well, they also he so when he was at Texas his like senior season, he moved positions from so he moved from linebacker to edge rusher. So they originally had him playing like middle linebacker, and then he moved to edge rusher, and his numbers went way down, which is not something that we saw. I think he had like 2 sacks in the game against Tampa, and like the one drive that he had, or something like that, or maybe he had more drives because I think he played with the twos as well. But I mean, he looked crazy. He looked crazy, and you have guys like him, and you have guys like somebody that we didn't talk about today, but he's had a huge impact in terms of relieving pressure for the other guys on the line, is Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson is a force to be reckoned with. He is in there every play. And I mean, he's not necessarily getting the sacks yet. He had a sack today, but he is causing pressure. And that is the big thing, is the Bengals need pressure, which is like why everybody was freaking out that we didn't sign Carl Lawson, because Carl Lawson creates pressure on the quarterback. But so does Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson is doing a great job, and he's forcing attention to that side of the line, and it opens up a lot more holes. Love what I'll let you finish, but I mean, wow, just the defense. Oh,
Yeah, and I think that like one of my big takes in the past couple years was so I believe it was 2018. Yeah, 2018. Bengals started off like 3 or 4-1, and I don't know if a lot of people quote me as saying this or whatever, but I remember saying our defense is not looking solid, and then we saw uh I believe the Ravens scored 50 points on us at home. The Saints scored 40 on us at home. And so we really started to see the deterioration of that defense. And the change that we've seen is that this team is very competitive defensively, and they're going to continue to be that way. And whether that's guys stepping up, obviously, it's like there's some sort of like talent in the scouting that we've seen, and that the guys that they're drafting are solid, right? Like another guy that you mentioned earlier was Marcus Bailey. Marcus Bailey, I believe, tore his ACL like a ton of times in college or something, and he might not actually pan out like a ton, but he's still great because before he got all those injuries, he was gonna be slated to be like a big linebacker pick, and I believe he fell to the 7th round or something like that. Like, it's picks like that, like, as like, looking at Zach Taylor that I like, because he's picking guys that want to prove themselves and want to be a part of something that's being built,
and he's picking
and
guys
that is
with
great.
upside, with tremendous upside. Just like it's like, yeah, it might not pan out, but if it does, it's gonna hit hard. Like,
Well, and I think that's what drafting is about. Cause like, at the same time, you're just as likely to have someone probably not pan out as they pan out. Like, the superstar possibility of a pick is pretty low in later rounds, um, unless I mean, you can bring up Tom Brady, you could bring up guys like that, but, I mean, it's still unlikely, you know? And so I think that being able to kind of formulate these drafts in the last 2 years and just being having it so successful, like, something else I brought up, this is not on the defensive side, but seeing that T. Higgins pick now is so much bigger than what I thought it was when we first got it. Because I thought for sure we were going O line or like something like that, and we went T. Higgins, which T. Higgins should have been drafted by the Green Bay Packers, but they bricked out and they chose Jordan Love and pissed off Aaron Rodgers. So that's the difference there. And it just shows the big difference because T. Higgins opens up the field, and now having Jamar Chase, dude, it's insane. And if there's one thing that I think Zach Taylor does well, it's draft. And another thing that I think he does is when people think of a draft, you pick what you need. I think he picks the best player available. That's what I think he does, and that really does help. Um, I think for me it was kind of tough this year because I'm like, all right, we need a line draft. If you're not drafting a line, I don't know what the heck you're doing. But he still was able to like pick the best guy up. Personally, I don't know if Jackson was the best lineman pick at the time, but he's looking great, so I'm not upset with that. Looking forward into this draft a little more, like you got a ton of guys that like are going to be able to prove themselves. Chris Evans was a 6th round pick, and he's like made a decent impact in the offense so far. So that I mean, I don't know what more to say. Like we have a lot of potential in in this team, and we're really seeing it. And I hope it really starts to come for full circle soon.
yeah, we're seeing all kinds of potential. It's gonna be realized at some point in time, and I mean, we've been saying this since like preseason, since before preseason. I don't know if it's this year, but next year at the very least, It might be this year. I'm gonna be honest. Like I think a lot of Bengals fans had pretty high expectations for the team this year. In terms of like everybody else is like, oh, the Bengals are gonna go like maximum like 7-10. Is what everybody else was, and every Bengals fan is like, yeah, like I could see us going like 10-7, which is like pretty big swing. Like 3 games is a pretty large swing, and the Bengals play a pretty difficult schedule this season. They don't really play a lot of bottom feeder teams. A lot of the teams that they play this year have like winning records last year, and so I I didn't expect us to be 2-1 week 3. I did not expect us to be 2-1 week 3. Um, I have been saying for a long time, not this year, next year. But at this point, I don't want to overreact because it's week 3, but it could be. Like we could make a run. This team is not necessarily built for a playoff run yet, but I think if we get to the playoffs, I don't think there's a single way Joe Burrow goes down without taking a win home. At least one win. Like Joe Burrow wants at the very least to bring that to the city of Cincinnati. Cincinnati needs that, and like I think if Joe Burrow goes to a playoff game, he's not coming home empty-handed. So, um, yeah, a lot to be excited about on this team. So we could sit here for another 2.5 hours talking about it. But I think unless you have anything more, that's really all we have.
I'm gonna finish it up with this thought.
Hmm.
As a Bengals fan, as a culture fan of Cincinnati, I think what we've really missed out on in any side of sports, Cincinnati sports, and I want whoever is like Bengals fans listening to this, stop being negative about Cincinnati sports. I understand that it's been a long time. It's hard to be optimistic, but here's the thing: in order to get better, there a winning culture has to be like instilled, and so, of course, being negative is good because then it's like, okay, I'm the owner of this team and these fans are mad at me and I might lose money. I understand that for sure. However, when the Bengals make a bad play, I don't want to see on Facebook and Twitter, oh, like, stop freaking out. Stop freaking out. What's the saying? It gets a lot worse before it gets better. I think we're past the it gets a lot worse. I think we're starting to come out of that. But here's where I'm directing this conversation. Look at the guys on this team right now. I'll read them off. Right, I got a list right here. Joe Burrow, obviously college goat. Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. Let's go defensive. Jesse Bates, Von Bell, Trey Hendrickson, Sam Hubbard. All right, I named those guys. A lot of those guys are from Ohio, played at Ohio State, or have some sort of tie in this area, or they have a huge chip on their shoulder. Something that Cincinnati sports have lacked in the last 20 years are players that have a killer instinct or a chip to win. In these past uh, couple seasons of successful Bengals football, let's go to the Andy Dalton era. Sorry, I said area. Andy was good, but Andy didn't have killer instinct. Andy was just too nice. Okay? Love Andy Dalton. However, he's not that guy that's going to take you to the next level. He's going to be above average and he won't ever really hit like a superstar level, right? AJ Green's awesome, but he was too chill too, right? I mean, he fought Jalen Ramsey, which was random, but like, there was never a time when there was, like, a team like, a player on those sets of teams that, like, tried to, like, change the culture and was like, "Hey, like, we're doing this." Like, Joe Burrow's cocky as hell, and he rightfully so, but, like, those types of guys are the ones that aren't gonna crack and want to win and are gonna do that next thing to win, and so I think that's what's important in what we're seeing in these Bengals teams, um and I credit that back to Zach Taylor is you got to get guys that want to be here, right? And there are a lot of guys that they've mixed and matched that want to be here and want to change things. And that's the best thing because even if the record doesn't look good, the team is going to play good. And it might not show right away, but it'll get there. And sometimes you just got to be patient. So that's what I think about this Bengals team. Hopefully they continue to steps necessary to win, and we'll see come next week, in the next couple weeks. So that's all I got.
Yeah, absolutely. It's week 3. Bengals are 2-1. They are currently in second place in all of the AFC. They're in first place in the AFC North. They're not tied for first. They are in first place because they are 1-0 in the division. So that's huge. If the season ended today, which it doesn't, if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. But if the season ended today, the Bengals would be in second place, and they'd be in the playoffs, which is huge. Bengals fans don't have that. But this season is different. Super excited to watch it play out. There's a pretty common theme, which the identity of a team after 5 weeks. If after 5 weeks they're still good, then let's get excited. So let's not overreact quite yet. This team, I think, is pretty good. I do believe in this team. I very strongly believe in this defense, and I really believe in the offense. I believe in Joe Burrow, and I do believe in Zach Taylor. But let's watch. Let's watch. Let's watch this get done. I want to see what happens with this team. So very excited about the direction this team is headed in. I think we're going great places. The season is going to be a fun one. Yeah, but absolutely. So thank you guys for watching or listening or whatever platform you are going to be on. It's probably going to be on YouTube. So YouTube. But yeah, if you found this, feel free to drop a like, subscribe, whatever it is. I'll drop the socials down in the description for Shouse and I. And you guys have a good night. Go Bengals, Hoo Day, and peace off.
See ya.